About to leave, already packing. Come with me, I'm not really asking. We'll get away to a place where we don't know. About to see the world in action, what we can be, life with no distractions. We'll get away, this is what we waited for. Not looking back, eyes on the freeway, Bonnie and Clyde, a classic cliche. We're on the run, this is what we waited for. Take my hand, we'll make it somehow. We can't miss out. I'm done living life with the lights out. Die with my own doubts.
Hi there, and good evening, and welcome to our latest AQA A-Level Sociology live study live session with myself and Craig Gelling. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Duncan.
Hiya. This is going to be the last of our sessions on Crime and Deviance for now, although we will be back next week for a sort of Christmas special of some description. We haven't really discussed what that'll be yet, but we will. And we've got a bit of a Christmassy theme tonight, actually, haven't we, Craig? Quite a few of the activities, not that crime prevention is especially Christmassy. We have got quite a festive set of activities coming up for you.
I don't know. There's a few activities about preventing Christmas parties and things like that.
Well, yeah. Yes, nice and topical. We've got a few people joining us live. It's nice to see. You're very welcome. If you are joining us live, please do join in with the activities in the live chat window, and we'll prompt you what sort of things you should be typing in there. If you're watching on catch up, and we know that every week a lot of people do watch this after the event, and incidentally, if you're watching this in May doing your revision, you might be alarmed by the number of reindeer involved, but obviously it makes sense to the live audience how Christmassy it is. Then you can't join in the live chat window, but you can pause the video, take a bit longer over some of the activities and what have you. So shall we get cracking? Yeah,
let's go.
I think we're starting with you with a bauble quiz. Oh, hang on a second.
We are. We've moved on from bubbles to baubles in a very festive spirit. I'm participating in the festive spirit because it's December now. I didn't want to last week because it was still November. But we're going to do our bubble quiz. If you've joined us in recent months, you will know that we usually do a bubble quiz, and the bubble quiz is where you have you can give the correct answers. Are between 0 and 4 correct answers to the question. We just replaced the bubbles with baubles, just to make it a little bit more festive. So you're going to be asked a question, and there will be between 0 and 4 correct answers. What you need to do is you need to identify the correct answer in the chat window on the right, or the correct answers on the chat window on the right. So let's have a look at our first question, please, Duncan.
Absolutely.
Okay, so which of the following sociologists wrote about surveillance? Okay, was it Wilson and Kellings? Was it Matheson? Was it Foucault? Was it Feely and Simon? How many of those sociologists wrote about surveillance, different types of surveillance that exist? And if you put your answer in the chat window there, just by putting A, B, C, D, or whichever combination that you think it is. So lots of people straight away are spotting Foucault. Foucault and surveillance do tend to be quite linked. Yeah. Are there any others that could potentially talk about different types of surveillance? And if you know what's the main thing that people are talking about with Foucault and surveillance, like obviously his key concept might be important later on.
Oh yeah.
Let's look at our correct answers then. Everybody's got Foucault. It's going a little bit slow on my screen, but you should see the correct answers there as Matheson, who talked about synoptic surveillance. Foucault obviously talked about the surveillance, and Feely and Simon, who talked about actuarial justice, the idea of using stats and data to actively predict what crimes are going to occur. Let's look at our second question. Now, situational crime prevention is based on which of the following... Okay, so which of the following principles inform the idea of situational crime prevention? Is it reducing the rewards of crime, maintaining the appearance of the neighborhood, increasing the risk of people getting caught, or tackling minor crimes? Which of those are the kind of guiding principles of what situational crime prevention looks to tackle? So which of those are behind situational crime prevention? This is usually the bit of the spec that most people end up on. I think Claudia's saying she did it in a lesson today. You assume sort of like you're towards the end of term, sort of like it does tend to be there. Okay, so Nefrendo's gone with B. That certainly is part of a crime prevention theory, but is it situational crime prevention theory? And Nefrendo's also gone for C and D, increasing the risk of getting caught or tackling minor crimes. Let's look at the correct answers. Yep. It is A and C. Obviously, situational crime prevention is based upon the ideas of what's called rational choice theory. So it looks at the idea of reducing rewards and increasing the risk of getting caught. So this is where we have things like CCTV. We have, target hardening, the idea of not being able to sort of like tackle commit different crimes. So it's based on the ideas of rational choice, which was both Wilson and it was also Clark as well. So let's look at our question number 3. Going on to that theory, which of the following are types of displacement? Of course, displacement is where crime is not reduced, but in a way is moved. So is it temporal? Is it physical? Is it target? Or is it spatial displacement? Which of those are types of displacement?
I was going to say that it works as quite a good criticism of situational crime prevention, doesn't it? That by putting those sorts of measures in, it may reduce crime, but it may just displace it. But in what ways?
Yeah, it displaces it in a number of different ways. And what we're looking at is sort of like, which of these would be seen as forms of displacement? How might crime be displaced? So Nefrendo's gone for B and C.
If you haven't heard these terms, it might be worth trying to sort of work out what it would, what the words would mean, what would temporal displacement mean, for example.
or spatial displacement, or target
Yeah.
displacement, physical displacement. Why is C bold? I don't know. It's not because it's. I think it's just an oddity of the thing. We go with B, C, and D. Let's have a look at the answer. It's actually A, C, and D, so quite good to get the C and the D in there. Temporal displacement means it might be moved to a different time. Physical displacement is not one of those. Target displacement might be moved to a different person or individual, or a different target, target of different type of shops.
Yeah.
And spatial displacement is moved to a different place. So if an area is particularly is heavily kind of guarded in terms of situational crime prevention, it might mean that the person who's intended on offending the crime may move to an area that is less guarded, if you like. Let's see question number 4. Move on to a different type of crime prevention now, community crime prevention. Which of the following are features of community crime prevention? Is it A, welfare cuts, B, community policing, C, early intervention strategies, and D, interagency collaboration? So by early intervention strategies, we mean things like preschool projects, parenting classes, that type of thing.
And interagency
parenting classes.
It could be.
Interagency collaboration.
Yep.
Interagency collaboration, things like safeguarding and things like that. The prevent legislation.
Yeah, where police and teachers and social workers, etc., might work together. And
yeah, they will identify a risk and try to intervene before that risk becomes a crime. Okay, so we've got a range of answers there. Some people are saying all, some people are saying B, C, and D. Let's go for an answer. Some of us are saying B and C. Yeah, it's the last 3. Welfare cuts you wouldn't see as being part of community prevention. They're very much a new right theory. But community policing and early intervention strategies and interagency collaboration are all very much from that left realist perspective.
Yeah, some good answers there.
Yeah. The applause button. And our final question in this round, which of the following are functions of imprisonment? Okay, so what are the functions of imprisonment? Is it rehabilitation, deterrence, political approval, or restorative justice? Which of those are there? Of course, rehabilitation of offenders, meaning that offenders will come out and be less likely to commit crime again. Deterrence is putting people off. Political approval, obviously, is political approval. And restorative justice is where we look to make amends for the crimes that we've committed. So people are going A, B, and D. Let's look at our responses. Yeah, it's rehabilitation and deterrence. They're 2 of the main ones. The extent to which imprisonment actually works as a form of rehabilitation, you would assess by looking at recidivism rates, the rates of reoffending, as a good one. Deterrence as well. Are sentences harsh or are sentences too lenient? That may also have an impact. Political approval, that tends to be not necessarily a function of imprisonment, but harsher sentencing may be seen to win political approval. Particularly that was the case in the 1990s if you look at right realist ideas. And restorative justice is a completely different way of looking at the punishment of offenders, is by getting them to make amends, often by through speaking with relatives of the victims. It's been in the news recently. Oscar Pistorius is going to speak to the relatives of Rena Steenkamp's, his girlfriend who he murdered, her parents, as part of a restorative justice program, and it's quite a popular method of using it in certain parts of the world.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our next activity is the Christmas card big reveal. So you may have come across a big reveal with us before, but this one's got a festive theme. So some clues are going to come out of the cards, and you've got to try and work out what those clues are hinting at, or who those clues are hinting at. Okay, so clue 1. I was born in France in 1926.
If they were born in France, I'm glad you're doing this one.
Is anyone coming in right away from the first one? Someone who was born in France in 1926.
Quite a few French sociologists.
We do get quite a few French people. Minecraft's come in with a suggestion there. We shall see. Okay, let's have a look. Next one. I was taught by Louis Althusser. So,
Oh, that's a claim to fame.
yeah, when I was at university.
Kind of puts a date on them as well, doesn't it? Really, you thinking about it?
I suppose being born in 1926 does do, but
Well, that does, yeah, of course.
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, but if you're sort of thinking
But
about
it's
where
not
people,
going to be Durkheim, is it?
yeah, and when you're sort of thinking about where people come, the sort of story of sociology, if you like, where people fit in. Okay. Next one. I wrote about many topics, including mental health and sexuality. And in Friendo suggesting Bourdieu. So we've had so far we've had Foucault and Bourdieu. Anyone wanting to? 3 might have been one that would have sort of determined it for a few people, I suspect. Let's have a look at clue 4. I wrote famous works on prisons, more than one actually. About prisons and related matters, but punishment and power and such things. Okay.
Discipline and Punish is most famous, isn't it, really?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Yeah, and then I coined the term internalized surveillance, although I don't know what it is in French. but I'm
not even going to try.
Anyone think they know? Someone was doing it today in class. We saw it earlier. And Minecraft got it off the first clue with his wild guess, or her wild guess. His or her wild guess. It was Michel Foucault. So well done, and a round of applause for Minecraft, I think, there, for getting it off one clue. Well done. Of course, there are quite a lot of French people on our spec, so... early doors, Bourdieu was a perfectly sensible suggestion. But I suppose if we're thinking we know it's someone who's written something about crime prevention, that sort of get there. Okay. Right, I'm going to hand back to Craig now for Santa's Workshop conveyor belt.
Okay, we're still talking about crime prevention a little bit here. What we're going to do is we are going to look for some of the features of situational crime prevention. Now, this is kind of a newer activity, and we have done a conveyor belt before. We've not done a Santa's Workshop conveyor belt. So what you're going to see is you're going to see 6 presents come across the screen, and you have to identify which of those are features of situational crime prevention. Now, we've mentioned situational crime prevention already. We've mentioned some of the features in this as well, so you may be able to pick some of these out. So if we start the conveyor belt, what you would do is you just put the numbers in the right-hand side at the end. It's a very festive tune. Okay, so which of those 6 concepts, which of the 6 ideas sort of like are part of situational crime prevention? Policies to tackle deprivation, security guards, zero tolerance policy, zero tolerance policing, CCTV, preschool projects, redesign of public spaces. Okay, so we're getting some people going 2, 3, 4, and 6. Yeah, it's very festive. The music
I love
is
that.
amazing.
That should be Christmas number 1. It's fantastic.
Instead of what's it, Lad Baby or something, who's number 1 every year with random songs.
I think
the Tutor to You Sociology team on as Christmas
with
number 1.
with situational crime prevention at Christmas. Yeah.
I'm sure there's been worse Christmas number 1s.
Yeah, probably.
So you could also potentially
Christmas.
identify. Somebody's gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 6. Some people, you could potentially identify some of the others by what type of crime prevention they are.
Yeah.
But let's look at our correct responses. Some in there. There's one that's a little bit tricky. for some people. Situational crime prevention is security guards. So you basically, with situational crime prevention, you're heightening the risk of getting caught, and you're reducing the rewards of people being able to do things. So it's things like CCTV, security guards, having a greater presence there, which I can understand why some people see it as zero tolerance policing. That actually fits in with another one of the crime prevention strategies, which we'll talk about, and the redesign of public spaces, most notably when you look at when you looked at New York and sort of like how they redesigned public spaces. So this is things like anti-vandal paint, anti-homeless spikes, and things like that.
Yeah.
Let's move on to our next one.
Okay, so we're going to have a little bit of a debate now in the chat window. And we're going to look at another aspect of crime prevention, although we have touched on community crime prevention already. So you've identified some features of it in the bauble quiz earlier. But I want us to think about some arguments now about the idea whether social and community crime prevention is effective. You know, when we're sort of choosing, imagine we're policymakers for a moment now, and we're choosing between something like situational crime prevention or environmental crime prevention or social and community crime prevention. Can we think of some arguments that would suggest that social and community crime prevention is effective? And then after that, we'll think about some that suggest that maybe it isn't. But what about that it is, to start with? Any ideas? So just reminding ourselves what it is. It's things like the early intervention, the working between agencies, the kind of social support for people, so maybe welfare policies, etc. There's a range of aspects of what we might call social and community crime prevention. Which perspective?
Particularly if you consider...
Sorry.
Yeah, social and community crime prevention tends to be on sort of like kind of the left of the kind of political spectrum, more about welfare spending than anything else.
Okay, so
it has in Glasgow.
In Glasgow, it can lower serious crime rates. That's a really good one. Well done. Yeah, really good argument. Probably better than ones I'm going to flash up. It's a good one. Anyone else? Who agrees with this? Which perspective might we mention that would tend to think along these lines and advise governments to follow these sorts of policies? Shall we have a look? So, as I say, the Glasgow answer is a really good one. It's kind of a left realist, or it links with left realism. You could link it nicely with left realism, and they would argue that it can these sorts of measures can tackle marginalisation, tackle relative deprivation, and that in turn could reduce crime. And absolutely, you could make links to Glasgow there to illustrate that point. And Chloe's said about socialisation to reduce crime. That's a really good point as well, and links nicely still with the left realism point, I think, and the marginalisation point if people are sort of socialised into the norms and values of society, and through things like Craig mentioned earlier, sort of the early intervention type strategies that might be used to assist with people's socialisation. And again, linking with what some of what's come in the chat window as well, we can think about practical uses, and both Labour and Conservative governments have used these sorts of strategies. So although it's seen as a sort of more left perspective, the coalition government did introduce some social and community crime prevention strategies as part of its sort of hug a hoodie campaign, particularly the Troubled Families programme, which came in under David Cameron. What about counter arguments then? That might help with one, actually, but can we think of any arguments on the other side of this to suggest that maybe social and community crime prevention doesn't work? You could, of course, use the other perspectives to suggest, you could come from a different perspective, or you could just come up with practical criticisms. So you can always use theory or evidence to criticise.
Just another benefit as well, sort of like it's often combined, isn't it? It's often combined with other methods as well. It's social and community prevention is often combined with things like situational crime prevention as well.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be on its own.
A more holistic view.
Yeah. Right realists would say the best way to tackle crime is being tough on crime rather than using the community. Okay, yes, so that absolutely. So an alternative, we could present alternative approaches. If people don't feel they're part of the community, they may not want to be involved, as Chloe, and that's definitely true. I mean, obviously that's sort of part of what the left realists are getting at with this sort of marginalisation kind of idea. But you can't make people feel part of a community, and these policies might not be effective. Shall we have a look? You've come up with some good ones, but I've suggested. So first of all, Troubled Families program, which I mentioned there, is quite a good example of it. But studies into it suggested it wasn't really very effective at all, and possibly one study suggested it actually had no discernible impact on offending whatsoever. Now that's just one scheme. That doesn't mean that all the others were ineffective, as we had earlier. The case in Glasgow is a good example of where such measures have been effective. And then, Ninfrendo did a good sort of criticism from a right realist perspective. You also criticised via Foucault that suggests this is really about power and surveillance rather than about crime prevention. This is the government essentially interfering in people's lives and controlling them and having power over them. So,
very Marxist viewpoint as
well. Yeah, it is. I mean, Foucault obviously is a kind of post-structuralist, but he does, as we mentioned, he was taught by Louis Althusser, and he does initially come from that sort of Marxist school, and you can still see that in some of what he writes about.
The old kind of Donzelot argument, I was thinking of sort of policing the family and policing individuals.
Yeah, and it absolutely links with that, doesn't it? Yeah, absolutely does. Yeah, I'm going to hand back to Craig for another very festive activity now, Santa's Riddle.
Yeah, Santa's Riddle. We're going to look at Santa's Riddle. With Santa's Riddle, what we do is we give you 3 clues to a person or a sociological concept or theoretical approach. What you will do is you will see Santa going over the screen with his reindeer, and as he goes over the screen, he reveals a clue. And by the time he's left the screen, the clue has disappeared, so pay careful attention. You will get 3 clues, and what you need to do is you need to guess the concept, person, or kind of theory that Santa is giving us clues to. So let's let Santa take flight. So clue number 1, this person was an advisor to the New York Police Department in the 1990s. So we're looking for a person. I'm going to play this music to my kids on Christmas Eve, just play it and sort of see if they fall asleep. This person's ideas influenced the development of environmental crime prevention. You might have a little bit of an idea now. Environmental crime prevention tends to be based on the ideas of certainly 2 sociologists.
Yeah. Let's see if either of them appear in the chat window. Okay.
Our final clue. And this person co-created broken windows theory alongside James Q. Wilson. Now, this should kind of give it away a little bit. Oh, yeah. Just one half of that combination, Chloe.
I was going to say, I think Chloe probably typed that before the last clue. I imagine there were loads of people sitting about to type Wilson. They were like going, James Q, and then saw the last clue with, oh, no. But well done.
It was the answer, if Santa reveals it. In very traditional Christmas fashion with a firework display. It was George Kellings. Yeah, George Kellings advised the New York City Police Department. He co-created broken windows theory, and broken windows theory is the basis on which environmental crime prevention is made. And this is why sort of like some of the things we were talking about before in terms of zero tolerance. Zero tolerance comes as part of environmental crime prevention, because it's the idea of let's remove any signs of disrepair or disorder from the environment very rapidly. And that's where you get this concept of zero tolerance policing. And over to Duncan for what may or may not be our final word smash of the year. I'm not sure if we can get a festive word smash.
Unless we can get a festive word smash by next week. I think it probably is our last one of 2021. This is my favourite activity, and last week people really got on board with it. So I'm hoping you're gonna smash it. You're gonna smash word smash this week. So you will get a clue or a question about sociology and about crime prevention. But you will also get a picture of something that has absolutely nothing to do with sociology or crime prevention. And rather like on Richard Osman's House of Games, you have to smash those two things together to create a word smash. So there you have an elephant, you have what is the southernmost continent in the world, home to the South Pole, which we know is Antarctica. So we smash them together to make Elephantarctica. So as you can see, the beginning of the right answer to the question is in the end of the word, of the first word. Okay? That's how it works. Okay, so here is our first one. So we have a picture of something, and we have ideal prison design developed into a concept by Foucault. So it was originally written by Jeremy Bentham, fact fans, when he talked about this particular design of a prison. But Foucault
goes back to 18th century, is it? 18th century, 1700s.
Yeah,
back that far.
Just about, yeah. Foucault, much later, developed the idea into the sorts of concepts we were talking about earlier, actually. Oh, wow! Ninfrendo's absolutely nailed this. Craig's laughing because of no one being able to get Snow White Collar Crime several weeks ago. But Marzipanopticon, which is marzipan and panopticon, was a brilliant answer. Well done, Ninfrendo, and that's really good. And yes, it was marzipan on the left-hand side. I hoped it was reasonably clear what it was. Okay, next one.
In the new year, I'm going to have another go at this because the ones I did with Snow White Collar Crime, and no one got it. This must be the delivery, Duncan. It must be your delivery of it.
So we've got an image there, and we've got one way punishment can prevent crime, which is pretty broad. We've talked about some ways punishment can prevent crime already today, such as deterrence, etc. But this is one we've not mentioned. But you will be able to work it out if you know what the picture on the left is. Oh, good try, Minecraft. Monster Retribution. Good try. Do you know what the full name of the film is, or the organisation that the monsters involved? You've already said monsters, so I don't mind saying monsters again. That is part of it.
It's the first film. It's the first film, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Monsters increasing the risk of course. So you've spotted it's Monsters Inc. It is Monsters Inc. But it's not increasing the risk of getting caught. Maybe this one was a bit too tricky.
Not Monster-right realism, no.
It's not Monster-right realism. It is Monsters Incapacitation. So it's Monsters Inc. and Incapacitation. Monsters Incapacitation. So some punishment will seek to incapacitate people so that they can't commit crimes. I mean, prison does that to a certain extent. If you're in prison, you are incapacitated from being able to repeat your crime for as long as you're in prison. Okay. Mm-hmm. I think this is our last one. So we have an image on the left and features like security alarms and anti-vandal paint, which we have mentioned today. Have we mentioned this key term? I think we have in passing.
I was going to be a massive geek and go, is that a moon?
That's no moon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there you go.
Sorry, equally geeky there. Okay. That's no moon. Situational. It does relate to situational crime prevention, but it's a particular concept that is done as part of situational crime prevention. The knowing what the picture is might help lead you towards it. Might do. Do we know what the picture is?
It's from a very famous franchise of films.
It is. I'm sort of
I'm
hoping
thinking that this.
I think people
Well,
still
I know,
know the films, don't they?
Yeah, I know, but I mean, sort of, the first one came out in 1977. It's
Well, this one, this is from the 1977 one, isn't it? But it was in the
yeah.
there was an unfinished one in the one from the mid 80s. But people still watch them. They do.
And then different versions of it in all the other films.
Give you a clue. Do people know what the pictures of? That would be a pretty good clue if anyone wants to say what the pictures of. It's from a very famous film. I'm now worrying about the start of our cinema workshop presentation, where I've got a really cool Star Wars reference.
Okay.
If nobody watches Star Wars,
it?
yes. So Chloe's got it's a Death Star. Well done. So Chloe's noticed that it is a Death Star. So we know that something at the end of that starts the next word. Okay, shall we give this one away? Maybe it was a bridge too far. Okay, it was Death Stargate hardening, Death Star and target hardening, Death Stargate hardening. Okay, well done for getting.
I feel slightly vindicated.
Yeah,
I feel slightly vindicated that no one got that. But
fair enough.
But they got Marsipop.
I was going to say, I thought that one was a lot easier than Marzipan Opticon. But anyway, there you go. Well done, everybody, and particularly on the rest of the activities throughout. Ninfrendo's saying you said it twice. I didn't see him. If you did, sorry, if you typed it, I do apologise if I missed you giving that answer.
I can't see it in the chat. Sorry.
No, sorry if we missed your answer there. Well done if you did get that one. Okay,
maybe Disney took it out because we said Death Star.
Possibly, maybe we're being might be.
Maybe it's copyrighted.
Yeah, might be. Right, so on that note, that was our final activity. Just a quick reminder that if you use your smartphone and you get the camera setting and scan that QR code there's loads of study notes and activities about all the A-level sociology topics, not just Crime and Deviance, and also lots of other subjects that you might be studying as well. And we do have lots of Crime and Deviance resources, such as the exam skills workbook, the revision guide, revision flashcards, etc. available. Okay, and on that note, I shall return us to the 222 studio to say our final farewells for this week. So everyone did brilliantly, didn't they? If people can, if you've enjoyed the session, if you can click the thumbs up, the like, that will help other people find us. Even if you didn't really enjoy it, you could click that. And also, if you're not already subscribed, do subscribe, and then you will find out about future live streams that we're doing, including a Christmas special next week. And then after Christmas, we'll be looking at some other topics. If you want to type, not in the live chat window, but in the comments section on YouTube, topics that you might want us to cover after Christmas, we'll have a look and see what you suggest, because we are open to suggestions there. We've got some ideas, but it'll be interesting to see what your ideas are too. Okay, so thanks very much, Craig, and thanks very much, all of you. We shall call it a night.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
See you next
Bye-bye.
week.